The moment we launched this game, something felt wrong. Not the usual kind of wrong, not bad graphics, not a laggy menu, not cheap jump scares. No, this was heavier, like the game itself didn't want us here. The title screen wasn't normal, just a single dirt road, swallowed by thick fog, stretching into blackness. No characters, no flashy logos, no upbeat menu music, just silence, and down at the bottom of the screen, in dripping red letters, 2 words, "Do not enter." At first we laughed. I mean, come on, classic horror bait, right? The kind of thing every indie dev throws in to get a cheap thrill. But then the fog moved, not like background animation. It pulsed, it breathed, like something on the other side of the screen was alive. Watching, I felt my stomach drop. My heart started racing, and I hadn't even pressed start game yet. That's when I looked at my friend and joked, "Bro, if we disappear after playing this, tell my mom I loved her." But in the back of my head, that didn't feel like a joke anymore. We hovered over the start option, no music, no sound effect, just a dull click when we pressed it. The screen went black, and then a whisper, not text, not subtitles. An actual whisper in my headphones, "You shouldn't have come here." I ripped my headset off, looked at my friend like, "Did you hear that?" He swore he didn't, but I know what I heard. When the game finally loaded in, the screen faded into this abandoned looking village. Old wooden houses, cracked stone paths, lanterns swaying in the wind, except the lanterns weren't lit. They were moving on their own, like invisible hands brushing past them. We started moving forward, and the sound design hit us instantly. No background music, just wind howling between the empty houses. Every footstep crunched like bones under our shoes. Every corner of the screen looked like something was about to step out. And then I noticed something that made my skin crawl. Every house, every single house, had its windows boarded shut, except one, a single, tiny cottage at the very end of the road. Its window wide open, curtains fluttering in the wind, and for half a second, I swear I saw a silhouette standing inside. We froze, my heart was hammering, palms sweating on the controller. I whispered, "Bro, did you see that?" He just shook his head, trying to play it cool, but I knew he saw it too, and that's how our journey into the most haunted village ever began. But the very first thing we found inside that open cottage, yeah, that's when things started to feel too real. So, of course, we went straight for the cottage, because apparently every horror gamer's brain works like this. Oh look, the scariest house on the street with an open window, yeah, let's walk right in. As we got closer, the atmosphere changed. The wind stopped, the sound of crickets gone. It was like the entire village was holding its breath, waiting for us to cross that line. The door to the cottage creaked open without us touching it. Not a little creak, a full, slowed ee that echoed through the headphones. I swear I felt my controller vibrate, but it didn't. It was just my hands shaking. Inside, the air felt heavy, not like normal game design. Oh, the room looks dark and dusty. No, this was different. Every time I moved the character forward, it felt like the screen dragged, like the game was resisting me. The first room was tiny, wooden floorboards warped from rot, furniture covered in dust, cobweb stretching across the ceiling, and in the corner a rocking chair, moving back and forth, slowly, but no one was in it. I froze. My friend leaned closer to the monitor, whispering, "Okay, nope. Nope. Nope, nope." But of course, we didn't back out. Curiosity always kills the cat, or in this case, the gamers. We stepped closer to the rocking chair, and right as we leaned in, slam, the door behind us slammed shut, loud, violent, like something wanted us trapped inside. We both jumped out of our chairs in real life. I actually hit pause and had to laugh it off like, "Oh, okay, nice try game, you almost got me." But my hands, yeah, they were sweating buckets. When we unpaused, something had changed. There was now a candle burning on the table in front of us. It hadn't been there before. Flame flickered unnaturally, like it was moving to some invisible breath, and next to it a note. I clicked on it, and the screen zoomed in, The handwriting was messy, jagged, like someone had written it in a panic. It read, "They never leave. Once you enter, you belong to the village." At that moment, I swear I heard something breathing in the background, not through the speakers. Through my headset, slow, deep, right behind me. I ripped one ear cup off and turned around in my actual room like an idiot, half expecting something to be standing there. Nothing. But when I looked back at the screen, the rocking chair had stopped moving. Silence, pure silence, and then the faint sound of footsteps upstairs. I looked at my friend, and we both had the exact same thought. Nope. Absolutely not. We're not going upstairs. But of course we did. The staircase groaned under every step. Each creak felt like a countdown to something horrible, and halfway up, we heard it a child's laugh, not cheerful, not playful. It was broken, distorted, like it was echoing from an old tape recorder. We froze. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat, but something about this game didn't let us stop. It pulled us forward, like the village itself was deciding for us. At the top of the stairs was a hallway lined with doors. Every door was closed, except one at the very end. Cracked open just enough to see light spilling out. We inched toward it, every step echoing like thunder in that silence, and just before we reached it, the sound cut. No wind, no breathing, no footsteps, nothing. I pushed the door open slowly. The room was empty except for one thing, a mirror. But here's the thing, the reflection in the mirror. It wasn't us. The room was empty except for that mirror. At first, we thought it was just some creepy decoration, but then we leaned closer and froze, because the reflection staring back at us wasn't our character. It was wrong. In the mirror, the village wasn't abandoned. The houses behind us were lit up, lanterns glowing, fires flickering in hearths, and behind our character figures, dozens of them, pale, motionless villagers just standing in the street, all staring straight at us. I spun the camera around in-game. Nothing. The road outside was still empty, fog rolling as usual. But in the mirror, they were there, watching, waiting. I actually whispered out loud, "Nope, nope, nope, nope. I'm not doing this." And my friend, he leaned back in his chair, died, muttering, "Dude, if one of them moves, I'm out. I'm uninstalling." We inched closer to the mirror, and suddenly one of the villagers blinked. Just a tiny twitch, but it was enough. My chest tightened, and I felt that weird falling feeling in my stomach, like the ground had just dropped under me. Then, without warning, the game forced our character's head to turn, not by us, by itself, slowly, painfully, and for the first time something was standing inside the room with us. In the reflection, behind our character, a tall, crooked figure began to form, its arms too long, its head tilted unnaturally, its body shrouded in black mist. The mirror crackled like static on an old TV, distorting as the figure leaned closer, until its face was inches from our character's ear. I swear I heard it breathe into my headphones, a raspy, broken inhale. Then the mirror shattered, glass exploded across the screen, the whole game vibrating with a low, guttural roar. And when the shards hit the floor, the reflection didn't vanish. Every shard showed the same image, our character, surrounded by the villagers. We spun the camera, desperately trying to see them in the actual game world. But outside the window, nothing, still fog, still silence. That's when we realized the mirror wasn't showing what was. It was showing what's coming. And then the door behind us creaked. We spun around. In the game and in real life, the door was cracked open wider now, like something had just slipped inside. I swear, for a second, I thought I saw a shadow slide across the wall. We edged toward the hallway, hearts pounding, breath short, and then, out of nowhere, a loud bang shook the entire screen. My friend screamed. I won't even lie, I nearly threw my controller. The lights in the hallway had all blown out at once. Sparks hissed from the ceiling, plunging us into near total darkness. And at the very end of the hall, the entity. Its silhouette was barely visible, but it was there, tall, crooked, wrong. It didn't move, it didn't attack, it just stood there, watching. I whispered, "Don't move, maybe it won't see us." But then, the game did something that made my blood run cold. Our character's head started moving again on its own, turning toward the thing in the hallway, and a text box appeared at the bottom of the screen. It already sees you. That was the moment we knew. This wasn't just some jump scare horror game. This village, it was alive, and we were trapped inside it. The words still burned on the screen. It already sees you. We stood frozen in that hallway, staring at the silhouette. The entity didn't move, didn't flinch. It just existed, like it had always been there, and then the screen glitched. Just for half a second, when the image cleared, the hallway was empty. I whispered, "Where did it go? Where the hell did it go?" And that's when we heard it. Not footsteps, not breathing. A low, wet scraping sound crawling across the wooden floor behind us. We spun the camera, nothing, spun again, nothing, and then out of nowhere, the entity lunged straight at us from the ceiling. I swear my soul left my body. We slammed the sprint button, running down the hallway, candles blowing out as we passed, shadows twisting unnaturally across the walls. The whole house groaned like it was alive, boards splintering under our feet as the thing chased us. Every time we looked back, it wasn't running. It was twitching forward, snapping closer in these jerky, impossible movements, like reality itself couldn't contain it. We burst out of the cottage and into the street, and that's when we realized something was different. The fog was gone. The village wasn't empty anymore. Every house, every single boarded-up window was open. And inside them, faces, pale, hollow-eyed villagers staring out at us in complete silence. Dozens, hundreds. Watching, my friend muttered, "Nope, absolutely not. I'm done." But the game didn't give us a choice. Camera locked forward, forcing us to walk down the street as the villagers began to step outside. They didn't run, they didn't shout, they just followed. At first, a few of them trailed behind us. Then more. Then entire groups poured into the street, their bare feet slapping against the stone as they closed in. And just when I thought we'd escape, the bell tower rang. It was the loudest, most distorted church bell I've ever heard in a game. The screen shook with each toll, and with every chime, more villagers appeared, crawling out of wells, rising from the ground, some even dropping from the rooftops, bones cracking as they landed. That sound wasn't just summoning them. It was waking the village up. We sprinted through the narrow streets, villagers closing in from every direction, their whispers overlapping into this horrible chant that made no sense. The game wouldn't let us fight. No weapons, no escape menu, just run. I could feel my pulse sinking with the controller vibrations, my vision blurring from the chaos on screen. And then the entity returned. It dropped in front of us, blocking the path. The villagers stopped moving instantly, like they were waiting for its command. And slowly, the thing raised its long, twisted arm and pointed. Suddenly, the crowd surged forward. It wasn't just a chase anymore, it was a hunt. We darted into an alley, shoving broken carts and barrels behind us, the villagers pounding against them like a tidal wave of bodies. We could barely keep up, every turn leading us deeper into the labyrinth of the village, and no matter which way we went, the entity was always ahead, waiting. It felt impossible, like the game was cheating, and that's when I realized it wasn't chasing us at all. It was hurting us. Every dead end, every blocked door, every collapsing roof, all of it was leading us somewhere. Finally, after what felt like forever, we stumbled into a massive courtyard at the center of the village. The bell tower loomed overhead, its crooked frame silhouetted against a blood-red sky that hadn't been there before. And waiting in the center of the courtyard was something we definitely didn't expect, a circle of mirrors. Dozens of cracked, shattered mirrors pointing inward like some kind of ritual. And in every single reflection, we weren't alone. The courtyard was silent. The villagers had stopped chasing us. They surrounded the edges of the square now, motionless, staring as if they were waiting for something, and in the center, that circle of mirrors, every reflection showed us, but not as we were. One shard showed my character with his throat cut open. Another showed my friend Avatar with his eyes missing, blood streaking down his face. Every mirror was a death. Every death was ours. I leaned closer to the screen, squinting, trying to figure out if this was just some weird design trick, but the longer I stared, the more one reflection started moving differently. It wasn't copying us, it was ahead of us. In one of the mirrors, my character lifted his hand slowly, even though I hadn't touched the controller, and then the reflection pressed its palm against the glass. Blood smeared across it. I whispered, "Dude, I think it's trying to get out." Before my friend could respond, the villagers began to chant. It wasn't words, not exactly. It was this low, guttural sound, like dozens of voices humming in a broken rhythm, and with every chant, the mirror flickered, showing faster and faster flashes of us dying in different ways, hanging, burning, drowning, buried alive. I actually had to lean back in my chair because it was too much. It felt overwhelming, like the game was forcing us to look at every possible way we could die. Then the entity appeared again. It stepped out of the shadows of the bell tower, taller than before, its body now twisted like broken tree branches, and as it raised its arm, every villager dropped to their knees. The chanting stopped. The only sound was that horrible creak of its bones as it pointed toward the mirrors, and then a prompt appeared on the screen. "Choose your reflection." I froze. My friend just stared at me like, "What kind of sick choice is this?" There was no timer, no way to back out. The game wanted us to pick one. I hovered over the reflections, each one flashing a different death scene. My brain was screaming, "Don't pick anything, don't give it what it wants." But the screen started glitching, static ripping across the image, text flickering at the bottom. "Choose or we will choose for you." I looked at my friend. He shook his head. I sighed, and finally I clicked one. Instantly, the screen cut to black. We sat there, staring at nothing, waiting for a jump scare, waiting for the sound of the entity rushing us. But instead, the game loaded into something worse. We weren't in the courtyard anymore. We were lying flat on a wooden altar inside the bell tower. Torches lined the walls, villagers circled us, and the entity towered over us like a priest about to deliver a sermon. The text appeared again, "Now you see the truth." And then the whispers started, not in the game, not in the sound design, in my actual headphones, voices, plural, whispering my name, my real name. I ripped the headset off and swore. I heard them continue for a split second, even outside the game. When I put it back on, the screen zoomed in on the entity's face. Its hollow eyes flickered like burning coals, and a distorted voice growled through the speakers, "You are already part of us." At that moment, the villagers began to move closer, their hands reaching out, their mouths opening wider than humanly possible, and then one of them stepped forward, a villager with my face. What happened when my own doppelganger leaned over me on that altar is the moment this stopped being just a game. The villager with my face stepped closer. Its eyes were hollow, its skin gray and cracked like old stone, but there was no mistaking it. It was me. The crowd of villagers began to chant louder, their voices overlapping into this distorted roar, and the entity raised both arms like it was conducting a symphony of madness. The screen shook violently, torches flickered, and suddenly the doppelganger leaned over the altar. I could hear it breathing, not through the speakers, not through the headset. It felt like it was in the room with me. My heart was racing so fast I couldn't breathe. My friend kept saying, "Don't look at it, don't look at it, just don't." But the game wouldn't let me look away. The camera zoomed in until the screen was filled with my own twisted face staring back at me, and then it smiled. That's when the screen glitched. Every frame of the game fractured into static, flashing images too fast to fully see. Villagers burning, bodies buried under dirt, the bell tower collapsing, faces screaming. And in between those flashes, there was me. Not the character, me, sitting in my chair in my room. For half a second, I thought the game had somehow hacked my webcam. But when I glanced up, my webcam light wasn't even on. So how did it show me like that? Suddenly, the game jolted back in. The entity slammed its hand down onto my chest, and the screen went blood red. We both screamed, waiting for the game over screen. But instead, the text appeared, "The ritual is complete. Silence, then the camera pulled back, and what we saw made my skin crawl. The altar was empty, no character, no body, nothing. We tried moving, no controls responded. It was like we weren't even in the game anymore. The villagers slowly walked away, dispersing back into their homes. The entity turned its head, and for the first time, it looked directly into the camera, into us. It raised its hand and pointed outward, at us, at me. The screen cut to black. For a few seconds, nothing happened. No music, no sound, just darkness. We thought it was over, but then one final line of text appeared. Look behind you. I froze. I couldn't even breathe. My friend was like, nope, 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 don't you dare. And I didn't, I couldn't, because in that moment, I swear I felt something standing behind me, watching, waiting. I slammed the game shut. Alt plus F4 like my life depended on it. And for a moment everything was silent again. We sat there, in the dark, headphones off, controllers on the desk, just staring at the monitor in disbelief. And then my speakers let out one final whisper, even though the game was closed. You shouldn't have come here. That was it. We both stood up, lights on, doors locked, no questions asked. Safe to say, we're never playing that game at night again. So yeah, lesson learned. If you ever see a game with a village, a foggy road, and the words "do not enter" on the screen, maybe listen to the warning. Because sometimes the scariest part of the game is realizing it might not stay in the game.